Hi, I'm Dr. Matthew Anderson, and the title of this conversation today is 75 and Still Alive. And what that means is, in just a few days, I will actually be 75 years old, and I want to talk about why it's so important to have this kind of conversation about being this old and hopefully even older someday. I want to talk to the people who are my clients, my friends, my business associates who are approaching this age. Generally starts in people's minds when they're around 60 years old, and I've been thinking about it clearly a lot since my late 50s. And I decided that when I got to be 75, I would make a video to talk about what I think about the aging process, what it means to get older, and offer some hopeful, insightful pieces of information, maybe even wisdom about what can be useful. How do we frame this thing that hopefully is going to happen to everyone watching this video now? I'm hoping that you will be healthy enough, well enough to live at least to 75 and hopefully even past that. And the possibilities are that's true for just about everybody listening to this. People are living longer, living better as they age. And that age that we get to is more and more out in the future. So, having said that, I'm going to read some things to you. I'm going to share some things that I hope will be useful about this. And to let you know that I have a goal, actually kind of a two-part goal, is I want to make it to 100 and then see if I can get as close to 120 as possible. Now, we'll all know if I'm successful at that. But the thing is, it's important to have those goals and to change the way we look at aging, at getting older, from something that we see as, in this culture, as an affliction, as almost like a disease itself to get older. It's always amazing to me when people ask other people around me, how old are you? And a lot of people don't want to say that. They don't want to give the number because they think, well, if I say I'm 75, I've got more of the disease than the person who says they're 70 or 65 or 60. And then people say to me, you don't look like you're 75. You look like you're closer to 60 or 62. And I have to admit, I have mixed feelings about that. On the one hand, I still like looking younger. And on the other hand, from that, I don't think that's such a good idea because it means that I am then caught up in the ageist society that we live in the society that says youth is good, aging is bad. It's an affliction, it's a disease. And so somebody says, wow, Matthew, you look way younger than I thought 75 could be. A part of me still gets a kick out of that. And another part of me goes, what's wrong with you? It should be okay. You actually ought to be proud of getting older. You made it this far. You're hanging in there. You're living your life. And so the title of today is 75 and Still Alive. Alive. Now I want to talk about what that means, and I want to read just briefly from a book that I really love about this subject. It's called The Force of Character and the Lasting Life by James Hillman. It looks like this. I'm not selling the book. I don't get any money if you go and buy it, but if you're in the aging process, if you're 60 years old or older, this book will be helpful to you. It's a wonderful book written by a Jungian analyst, Carl Jung, psychologist, Jungian analyst, Jung, who died just a couple of years ago. He lived to 84. His name was James Hillman. Really wonderful insights. So I'm just going to read you just a paragraph or two to get started, and then I'm going to share some other things. In the preface, the very first thing he has to say is, aging is no accident. It is necessary to the human condition intended by the soul. Very important, I think, to begin to thinking about aging as something that's intended by the soul. Our souls want us to age and get older so that we can benefit and contribute to society out of it. He says, Hillman says, we need imaginative ideas that can grace aging and speak to it with the intelligence it deserves. So why do we live so long? He says, I cannot support the theory that human longevity is the artificial result of civilization, its science and its social networks, yielding a crop of living mummies, paradoxes suspended in a twilight zone, the old as retards. He's just talking the truth here about how so many people feel about old people. He says, instead, let us entertain the idea that character requires the additional years, and that the long last of life is forced upon us neither by genes, nor by conversational medicine, nor by societal collusion. The last years, and this is what's important, confirm and fulfill character. The last years are here, he says, to confirm and fulfill character. He says that old age is not an affliction. It's not a disease in itself. It does not have to be something that we slide down a painful loss of one thing and one person after another. It can be something powerful, enriching, inspiring, and even a blessed gift that we give to ourselves, our families, and the societies that we live in. He says, our ideas of aging need replacement. And I'm going to say that I completely agree with that. I completely agree with the idea that we need to change our ideas about the aging process, about what it means to get older. We need to get to the point where someone says, how old are you? And there's no embarrassment, no shame, no discomfort in giving an honest number. If it's 75, as mine is, if it's 80, if it's 90, when I get to be 90, I'm going to be proud that I'm 90. I'll get to be 100, I'm going to even be prouder. I made it this far. I'm hanging in there. I am still alive. Now, I'm not talking here about just surviving. Don't think for a minute that I'm interested in you becoming, or me becoming, what he called a mummy who is kind of living in a twilight zone in some building where only old people go and everybody else avoids like hell because they're afraid they're going to catch that freaking disease. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about being fully alive. Now, I want to ask you a question. It's an important question for you to ask yourself. And I want you to at least think in your mind, because you know I can't hear you. This is a video. But answer this question honestly in your mind. And then I'm going to tell you something, and you're probably not going to like what I'm going to say next. But then I'm going to tell you a way out of it, okay? So just stick with me for a moment. Here's the question. Are your best years of life behind you? Are the best years of your life now behind you? If you answered yes to that question, then you have already begun to die. That's the bad news. But if you listen to what I have to say and you start doing at least even some of the things I'm going to suggest to you, if you bring yourself more alive, if you participate more in life, you can reverse that process. You can stop the dying process. Now, one day your body's going to quit. It'll just quit. It'll say, okay, Matthew, I've had enough. Time to go. Goodbye. See you later. But you can stay fully alive, fully engaged, fully meaningful, fully participating and what it means to be alive right to the very end. I remember hearing the spiritual teacher Ram Dass talk about his friend Timothy Leary. And he said, Ram Dass said, I got a call from Timothy Leary one day a few years ago, and Tim said, Ram Dass, I'm so excited. I can't believe it. So excited what's getting ready to happen. Ram Dass says, wow, what is this going to happen to you? He says, I'm dying. Ram Dass thought, and he said, what? You're excited that you died? But then he thought, yeah, I know Timothy Leary. He's quite a guy. What he meant is I'm excited about being present for the significant experience of dying. Now, in the process of thinking about dying, Timothy Leary was coming alive. He was bringing himself fully to life so that he could fully participate in the process of death. Now, I'm going to guess that most people who are watching this and listening to it are thinking, what the hell? That I never heard anything like that. Good. I want you to hear it now, maybe for the first time. The best years of your life could begin today. I don't care what it's been like before, what you've been through. I'm 75. I've been through a lot of crap. Some of it happened to me and some I invited. I've had my share of wonderfulness and my share of difficulties. And I expect for the next 5, 10, 15, 25, even 45 more years that I want to be fully alive in this body, in this life. It'll keep happening that way. But I promise you, and I promise myself even more, I'm going to be fully present for that. I'm not going to start the process of giving up, hiding out, going someplace, quit. I'm not going to play frickin' golf 4 times a week for the rest of my life. That's like turning off your brain and going away. There's no living in that. You're still alive. My mother used to say to me, my mother died a couple of years ago at 98. She was close to 99 years old. And she used to say to me sometimes when I'd visit her, she'd say, honey, I don't know why the Lord is keeping me here. That's the way she thought about it. She said, my kids are okay. I've seen my children, my grandchildren, even great-grandchildren. I'm happy with what I have. My husband has gone ahead of me. I want to go to heaven and see him. Why is the Lord keeping me here? And I only had one answer for her, but I really believed it. I said, Mom, you're still here because you can still make a difference. And when it's time to go, he'll take you. And that's what happened. She was gone and she was happy it was happening. You don't have to die until the day of your death. The rest of the time, you're here to be alive. Now, if you say to yourself, okay, I'm 65 or 70 or 75, and it's time for me to start slowing down, your body is going to do that. I'm slower now than I was 20, 30, 40 years ago. I move more slowly. But as you can see and you can hear, my passion for being alive has not gone away at all. In fact, it has increased because I've come to understand it's not over until it's over. It's not over until it's over. And so, if you say, the best years of my life, oh God, they were 10 years ago, 20, 30, when I had everything and all of A, B, C, and D. No. That's cutting yourself short. That's cheating yourself of what some of the real possibilities of who you are. Yeah, you might need to rethink this. You might need to say to yourself, okay, I'm not 25 anymore. I'm not going to run a marathon. You don't have to run a marathon. You can think differently about who you are. The poet, David Whyte, spelled W-H-Y-T-E. He's a contemporary poet, still alive. He's got a website. He's a great poet. He has a story that he tells. He grew up in, I think it was Ireland. But he said he knew a man who had a sheepdog whose name was Cumro. Now, if you know anything about sheepdogs, you know they have enormous energy, and they run back and forth in front of the sheep, and they herd them in the direction that the shepherd wants them to go in. The Qumran was an old sheepdog. He had a tattered ear, and he didn't walk too well, and he was starting to turn gray. But Qumran had figured something out that I think is just absolutely beautiful. David White said he watched Qumran, and what Qumran would do is stand in front of the sheep, and he would lean a certain way. And the sheep would get the message and they'd go that way. Then he would lean another way and they would get the message and go like that. And Qumran did 1/10 of the physical effort because he was using his bright sheepdog brain to figure out he had an elegance of movement. And as we get older, it's important that we develop that we look at ourselves and we say, I've lived it this long. What have I learned that's a contribution? How is my character developing? How am I benefiting from all the troubles and the blessings, the difficulties, the miracles, the special things that happen to me? How am I benefiting? What have I learned that contribute to my existence and to those around me? And how can I be fully alive today, in this day, in my relationships to myself and to others? Now, I remember I was teaching in a local college a few years ago, actually about 25 years ago. I was teaching an evening class where all adults were, and we were having a conversation about learning, and I had a student in my class who was 30 years old. He was a guy, and he said something in response to the process of learning that I'm thinking about how to say this in a way that doesn't make me seem too dangerous. I'll just tell you what it is. He said, by the time I got to be 20 years old, I'd learned everything I need to learn. I don't really need to learn anything else. And I thought at the moment when I heard that, I want to kill you. I want to strangle you right within half an inch of your life so you realize how stupid that statement was. How stupid it was to think you were 20 and that was it. Every single day of life that shows up, I learned something new, something wonderful, something special. Every day is not a day that misses. Because I'm paying attention, because I'm present, I'm bringing my emotions, my awareness, my thoughts, my mind, my body to the present. No day to me is a throwaway day, and I think that's one of the things that you can learn more and more as you get older, the preciousness of life, because once you get to be 55, 60, 65, 70, and 75, once you get to be that old, you think about death a lot. You think, wow, that person that died could have been me. You don't think I got 40, 50, 60 years to go. No, you're very aware, and that could be a blessing if you approach it the right way. If you say to yourself, I don't want to be maudlin and morose. How could I learn from the fact that death could be very near? Because it makes each moment, if you want it, each moment becomes precious, becomes special, becomes available for us to discover the magnificence that is always there. You know, the Buddhists have a special thing they say, and I've always loved it from the first time I ever heard it years ago. The Buddhists say everything you need to be fully enlightened is always right in front of you, right now, in the moment. Everything you ever need to be enlightened is always right here, right now. Then they say, and most people can take 10,000 lifetimes before they're enlightened. And what that really means is, it's right there and you can't see it. But if you say to yourself, I'm aging, I'm getting older every single day, the time of the end of life is coming closer, how can I make this a special day? Then that coming closer of death becomes a blessing. It becomes something that will transform every moment. Every day when Sunny leaves to go to work, that happens to be my wife, the most beautiful person in my whole life. When she leaves to go to work, a thought crosses my mind. She leaves for work before I do, and then I go to work after her. I think, what if this is the last time I see her? Now, I hope it's not. And when she walks in the house, or I walk in the house at the end of the day, I feel blessed because I was willing to deal with that reality, because it could be. That's why we need to think about death, not to get scared, but to bring ourselves into the present and experience the preciousness of it. I want to read to you something very quickly that describes what it means to be fully alive. I wrote this years ago. I call it the alive zone, to live in the zone of aliveness. And this is what comes to mind to me now when I think about it. I want you to listen to it and imagine what it would be like for you if you aged with this as your credo or something very close to it. Just imagine how your life will be. Your alive zone is expansive, unpredictable, and creative. It is that place where you face your fears, you question your old limits, you reject the stifling control of old habits and programs. You take risks that your parents never imagined and explore possibilities that inspire and enthuse you. To be enthused comes from a Greek word, entheos, meaning in the spirit, in the God, participating in the divine. If you're enthused, you have the energy, the passion of the divine. In the alive zone, you grab your fears by the throat and you say, thank you for sharing, but I have my life to live. I will not honor fear as a reason to stop me from being fully alive. In the alive zone, you say yes to your dreams and no to the nasty little excuses that drain your energy and block your path to creativity. In the alive zone, you honor your passions. You honor your passions and allow them to teach and guide you to work, to guide your relationships, and even the body that will transform your life. Imagine what your life would be today for the rest of the day if you just kept that in mind. To be in your alive zone, to be fully present, to be yourself, to blossom as you were put here to blossom all the way to the last moment of this existence. No throwaway moments, no throwaway years, no throwaway decades. No, I'm just going to tolerate the future because the past was so wonderful and that's all the good I'm going to have. No. I don't care what condition your life is in right now. If you're sitting here in a wheelchair, whatever you've got, if you can breathe, you're alive. And you can live that aliveness. In our culture, we see aging itself as dying. We often see aging as becoming obsolete. We often see aging as a significant loss of beauty and something that makes us downright ugly that we cannot even look at. We see aging often as just about sickness and loss. That's so much a part of our culture, our society these days. But you don't have to think about it that way. You can change your mind. Now we can say to ourselves, I am aging and I am growing wiser. I am aging and I'm learning even better. After all these years, every year I get better at being alive. I'm aging And I'm starting to see more of the depth and the vibrancy, the colors, the specialness of life. I am letting go of my bitterness. I am filling my life with gratefulness. I am forgiving as a daily practice. I am turning into a real, blooming, blossoming blessing. For every single moment I have left to live, I am blossoming as fully as I possibly can. And I'm telling you, my friend, you have no idea how much wonder is still in you. So I want to finish by reading you my credo. It's on the wall in my office. And every once in a while I share it with people. But I'm going to invite you to allow these words to become part of your reality as you listen to them. Credo. To create a life with such ferocity, such passion, and tender elegance, such attention to what is meaningful and soulful, that one becomes entirely irreplaceable, a force of being without a wasted breath, a fullness, a light that gives, even in its passing, a glimpse of the face of God. God bless you with healthy, fully alive aging, right to the very moment of your death.